Hi everyone. My name is Vijay, and I work at Blue Nile. How many of you have heard of Blue Nile before? Just show of hands. Raise your hand if you've heard of Blue Nile. See, this is actually our number one problem is people don't know about Blue Nile. So that's why I kind of do these talks, because it's the easiest way for us to get the word out about who Blue Nile is and what we do. Just a little bit of quick introductions first, because many of you are new to the website. First of all, I'd encourage you to go to our website at bluenile.com, check it out. We only launched our Spanish website about less than a year ago. So, you should check out, about 65% of our revenue is diamond engagement rings, so diamond rings. And the other 35% of our revenue comes from jewelry. And jewelry is everything from silver to pearls to gold jewelry, platinum jewelry, as well as diamond jewelry and gemstone jewelry. So, a couple of things I want to talk about that are different about Blue Nile. I'm not going to spend all my time talking about Blue Nile. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is how e-commerce is actually sort of helping the world, making the world more flat, how e-commerce is helping brands become global faster and faster. And a good example, the reason I'm standing here in front of you, I've been with Blue Nile now for about 3.5 years, and I was hired to Blue Nile 10 years after it started, to basically start up their international division. So I was the first full-time employee dedicated to international. And over the last 3 years, we've launched websites in Chinese, Japanese, French, Spanish. We have expanded to now about 45 countries. The last two where we launched the United Arab Emirates and serving out of Dubai. And now we are actually in China. So we have an office in Shanghai as well. And for those of you who are interested in buying, our office in Europe actually is based in Ireland. So all of our products actually get shipped out of Ireland. So that's just the history of the company. You might find it surprising a little bit in terms of, a lot of the questions I get from people all the time, obviously, is, do people really buy diamonds online? How much do you sell? What do you sell? So 65% of our business where we sell diamond engagement rings, the average ticket per transaction is $6,500. And we ship that through pretty much regular mail, FedEx, UPS, those type of deliveries. So we have built a system where people over time have started to trust us more. People know that we're a NASDAQ-listed company, and so they have that trust. The other thing that makes a very big difference for us is the fact that you get a GIA certificate with the diamond. So you can verify the diamond. You can go back, you can hold on to the diamond for up to 30 days, and if you're not happy with the purchase, you can return that diamond. And so we stand behind our products and our warranty of the product. So that's essentially the business model that was created all the way back in 99, 2000, built the $300, $400 million business in the US, and my job was to basically take that business model and make it global. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is happening in the global world of e-commerce. And as we talk about it, I'll give you some examples of what I think has happened historically and where I think some of the things are heading. So we start with the world is flat. I don't know if you guys have read that book from Thomas Friedman, but he talks a lot. The very first chapter of that book, he talks about how he's teeing up on a golf course, and somebody tells him in Bangalore, India, and they say to him, hit the ball between the IBM sign and the Microsoft sign. So that's the world we live in. We become a much, much more global world. And one of the things that does is it helps brands like ours, which are very, very small, become much more global. So I wanted to sort of talk a little bit about the evolution and how things have progressed over time. I've used examples from my own history. So prior to working at Blue Nile, I worked at Nike for many years. And after Nike, I actually lived in India doing some not-for-profit work for a few years as well. So I wanted to talk about my own experiences and what the view of the world, the way I have seen it. So we'll start with kind of what I call the phase one in terms of brands becoming global, so retail brands, right? So whether it's Coca-Cola or Zara or IKEA or Nike. I'll pick on Nike and IKEA because those are two great examples of brands that became global. But one of the things that fundamentally helped them become global faster was the notion of they had a very global supply chain. What do I mean by that? So if you look at Nike, for example, Phil Knight, who's the founder of Nike, was actually a distributor for a company called Onitsuka Tiger, based out of Japan. When he lost that distributorship, he created the Nike brand, but he was having the shoes manufactured originally in Japan. As Japan became more and more expensive, he started moving that production to Korea. As Korea started becoming more expensive, he started moving that production to Taiwan. As Taiwan became more expensive, he started moving that production to the Far East. So we started manufacturing in Vietnam and Thailand, and then eventually a lot of the production has ended up in China. But what that does is you had teams on the ground in each of those countries. So when the company decided to go global, and today over 50% of Nike's revenues come from outside the US, it was because they already had those people on the ground. If you think about the second part of the revolution, and this is, I grew up in India, but I spent most of my time living in the US, and then I went back to India in about 2007, 2008, and I was there for about 3 years. And the most surprising thing for me was I lived in a little community, if you will, so it was an expat community, and most of the people that worked there worked for either Cisco, Accenture, IBM, and it was amazing to me. IBM to me is like Levi's and Coke, right? It's a quintessential American brand, right? Even for a brand like IBM, what might surprise you is that they have 450,000 employees roughly. 150,000 of those employees are in India. So, and just to put things in perspective, Nike is a very, very global company. When I worked at Nike, we had about 25,000 employees. They probably today, globally, a $20 billion brand has about 30,000 employees, right? This is 450,000 employees. Just the city that I lived in Bangalore for a while, they had over 100,000 employees in Bangalore alone today, right? So another great example of how the world has been flattened, how resources have been moving around the world, and what impact that has. If you start to fast forward that's the kind of the starting point, and you start to think about, what the next phase looked like. This is where I use Blue Nile as an example, right? So, and there are a lot of examples in terms of companies. Amazon obviously is very, very global. They're very, popular, I'm told, here in Spain as well. What we did at Blue Nile is we started the business by selling into English-speaking countries. So our top markets used to be markets like Canada, UK, Australia. Those were the easier countries for us to relate to because they have a big engagement culture. So they have a big diamond engagement ring culture. And the language was easy because we already provide the customer service. We already had the website. It was easy, relatively easy to import and export products and diamonds specifically into those countries. The next set of countries that we actually moved into were basically getting into the rest of Europe from the UK, using the UK as a base to get into the rest of Europe, getting into markets like Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Macau, which is really largely funded by the money that comes out of China, getting into Japan, which was the world's #2 market for diamonds, and is now actually, China has outgrown Japan to become the new #2 in terms of diamond retail. So what we have done over the last year or so is spend a lot more time and energy trying to figure out how to get into China. So we launched a Chinese website. We actually got a team on the ground with local manufacturing capabilities, and we're able to ship to customers in China now, right? So a lot of my time was spent thinking about markets like, so if I give you just one statistic, between Japan, China, Middle East, and India, the size of those 4 markets is basically bigger than the US market, and US market is the biggest in the world, right? So if I'm going to try to build a business which is going to be the same size as the US business, I have to make sure that I'm not just successful in Europe, but I'm also very, very successful in Asia, right? So a lot of our focus has been on Asia, and we ship now to over 45 countries. Our supply chain is another thing I wanted to talk about very quickly. When we first started, most of our diamonds that were on the Blue Nile site were coming from New York, or a few from Los Angeles. Now, if you look at our diamond supply chain, our diamonds sit in Israel, they sit in Antwerp, they sit in Mumbai, they sit in Hong Kong, in addition to the diamonds that we have in the US. So we've become a much more global supply chain over time, and that's really helped us. One important distinction I want to make about Blue Nile, and the reason Blue Nile has been able to avoid competitors. So we offer 150,000 diamonds for sale at any given point of time on our website. But those diamonds are exclusive to Blue Nile. So what I mean by that is the diamonds you find online on Blue Nile, you will not find them on Amazon, you will not find them on eBay, you will not find them at any other jeweler. They're exclusively online. They belong to us because we have a very deep relationship with our suppliers that we've built over the last decade. And we've become a trusted partner for those suppliers to the point where they are willing to list their diamonds with us and not sell to our competition. So that's essentially, and then the other part I should also mention is every product that you're buying from, especially an engagement ring product, it's a personalized product. So you pick one of the 150,000 diamonds, and you pick the setting that you want, the actual ring, and we assemble the diamond and the setting, and then we ship it out to you. We engrave it as well. So in the engraving process, you can have your wedding date on it, you can have your name on it, you can have your initials on it, and then we'll send it out to you. So every product is actually personalized and unique. And so those are the reasons we've actually been successful. I want to shift my focus a little bit and talk about where I think the future of retail is going, just to leave you guys with some thoughts. This is an image of what a concert used to look like just maybe 15 years ago, right? This is the image of what it looks like now. So you guys can see, you see a lot of phones and devices and computers I can see here in the audience as well. Everyone has at least 2 or 3 devices on them. The world has changed, and what I'm trying to do is give you a sense of what I think it'll look like over time and what happens over time in the world of e-commerce and in the world of retail. The first thing I think is that inspiration can come from anywhere, and which also means competitors can come from anywhere. How many of you in this room have heard of a company called JD.com? Just show of hands, anyone? Nobody, okay. They used to be called 360 Buy. A couple of people here already know. So 360 Buy is the largest B2C retailer outside of the Alibaba group in China. And they used to be called 360 Buy, and now they are called JD.com. Why am I mentioning them? JD.com for years has had something called 211. What does 211 mean? It means if you order by 11 p.m. at night, you will have the products by 11 a.m. the next day. If you order by 11 a.m., you will have the products by 11 p.m., right? If you read about Amazon today, at least in the US, and I'm sure here as well, a lot of the talk is about how many warehouses they're building and how they're going to provide same-day delivery. The point I'm trying to make is even though Amazon is such a big company, and I'll also give another example at the end of my conversation, which is another Amazon example, but even though they're such a big company, they have actually not been successful in China. But what they've done is they've taken the learnings of why they haven't been successful and applied that to other markets in Europe and in the US. Next thing is traditional retailers, right? So this is Home Depot. Think of it as one of the largest sort of home improvement stores. The guy in the middle there is the founder of Blue Nile. His name is Mark Vadon. He joined the board of Home Depot recently. So again, boards of traditional retailers are trying to increase their digital IQ. They want people with online and e-commerce experience to be part of their board of directors, right? Not only that, they bought another company called Red Beacon that goes out and gets you contractors. So if you want a carpenter, or if you want something is broken in your house and you don't want to fix it and you want to get somebody to fix it, you can do that. Addition to that, they've actually made they have some deals with Quirky. I believe Quirky presented here last year, but what they're doing is they have a partnership where there'll be specific products that will be created for the home and they'll be retailed through the Home Depot stores and online. So again, the traditional retailers are becoming much more aggressive about adapting to technology, which basically brings us to omni-channel, right? So omni-channel is the big buzzword right now in retail. It has to do with how you saw some statistics today or earlier today about how if you have an online presence and an offline presence, you're likely to sell more to the customer. This is a company called Hointer. It's an ex-Amazon executive who created this company. And when you walk into the store, you use the app to check out the pair of jeans you like. It'll tell you to go to the changing room. The jeans in your size will already be in the changing room. You try on the jeans. If you like it, you walk out. They bill your credit card directly. If you don't like it, you put it in a different place. It takes it out of your shopping cart. So it's completely seamless. The entire store can run with one person, right? And so it's a completely different inventory model. You're not trying to put all the products you have into the store. You put everything in the back of the house. You put one of each style outside. So it's a much better experience, a much better visual merchandising experience. Right? So I don't know where omnichannel is going, but there's a lot of action in the space. I think the reality is there is some truth to the fact that eventually there's going to be a convergence between online and offline, and you're starting to see that already happen. Another thing I want to talk about, you can't talk about e-commerce without talking about mobile. The example I use here is a company called Zulily. Anybody heard of Zulily here? Okay, a few people. So Zulily actually has been founded by two ex-people from Blue Nile, including the founder of Blue Nile and the person who was an executive at Blue Nile. They are actually planning to, in the process or thinking about going public soon. But in their S1, one of the interesting statistics that they mention is that 45% of their revenue comes from mobile devices. Right? They sell mostly to moms, and they sell a lot of clothes for girls, as well as for children, as well as also then they've increased their product portfolio to sell to moms as well. Right? The average ticket is very different than Blue Nile. Earlier I was talking about $6,500 average ticket at Blue Nile. The Zulily average ticket is much, much, much lower. It's more like a deal site that does deals for like 2 to 3 days, and you buy it because otherwise you run out of the product. So people go there regularly. People go on their mobile. They're constantly shopping. Another piece of this is crowdsourcing. It's kind of funny. If I actually met some of the people that I met here today, I would have used different examples here. So if you guys had a presentation from Instacart, and they talked about crowdsourcing for delivering groceries, that's a great example. There's a person I met who I think is presenting after me who talked about, who works at Naked Wines, and Naked Wines is doing crowdsourcing to create wines, right? So one of the things that we do in our phone app is we have something called a Dream Box. And the Dream Box, even though it's almost about 3 years old now, on average, it's been downloaded in over 90 countries, and on average, when people come to this app, they're viewing about 38 to 40 pages. And one of the reasons it's so sticky is because there's something called a Dream Box. I can just hit that little shake button, and it'll rotate the box, and it'll show me a new ring. And when you see the ring, it's that ring, you can buy exactly that ring if you want to buy it, right? So you can hit the call button, and you can say, hey, I saw this ring. I want to buy it. Can I get the same price, or can you get me something similar, right? So it gives you ideas. And so what you find here is that you have a lot of brides who are coming in and looking at this and kind of trying to figure out what type of ring that they want. My last slide on this is about, I actually work for a not-for-profit organization called Splash. I'm the president of the board. It does clean water in Asia, so in China, Nepal, and many other countries in Asia. And Eric Stowe is the founder of the not-for-profit, and he just gave a big TED Talk on how to kill your charity. And what I loved about the TED Talk is that is actually a very similar philosophy to what it is that Amazon uses. So when Amazon came up with Marketplace, again, I believe that Marketplace was inspired by the Alibaba Group and the Tmall concept, which has the #1 market share in China. What they basically said is, even though we're a retailer, even though we carry inventory, we're going to go out and create a marketplace that will compete with our retail business. The concept is very simple. If you don't focus on trying to cannibalize your own business, your competitors will. So constantly reinventing yourself is the key to retail. And so you're actually trying to figure out a way on how to kill your own business, right? And it's really, really important in my mind. So in terms of just some parting thoughts on this, I would say this from my experience. And again, I travel to China every 6 to 8 weeks right now. I'm based in Seattle. Like I said, I have a team here in Europe, based in Ireland, and I'm originally from India. I've lived in 3 different continents. In my mind, in order to be a successful global e-commerce or a traditional retailer, you have to be successful in some key markets. And it used to be historically, it was just US and Europe. I think it's no longer just US and Europe. I think it's now become US, Europe, and China. And what that also teaches you is the model is so different in each one of these geographies that you end up being able to solve for the whole world. So I'll just leave that thought with you in terms of, as you're thinking about taking your ideas global, you got to think not just about the European market, which is complicated, but also think about the US market and also think about the Chinese market. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. De nuevo, turno para preguntas. Supongo que habrá alguna o será difícil después de comer. Por allí.
Mic coming, sorry.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask you, what if someone buys the ring and then wants to give it back and gives you something else? Because I know that has happened a lot sometimes.
So they want to just exchange the ring, you mean?
Well, no. They give you something else instead of they give you an exact
they
same
swap
ring.
out. Okay, yeah, so it's a good
they-
question. So yeah, so I didn't talk about this a lot, but one of the reasons we're still around after 13 years or 14 years of selling diamonds online is we have a very, very strict fraud and insurance type department. So obviously when you're shipping items that are so valuable, you have to be really, really careful. So on our end, every time something gets packed, we videotape it, and everything is on video and we have it on film. Every time something gets returned, we open it under the camera. And it's looked at right then and there, because the nice thing about every diamond is every diamond has an encryption inside. And so you know what the GIA number, so we only deal with GIA certificates because the GIA number will be inscribed inside the diamond, so you know if somebody swapped it out in like 2 minutes of looking at the diamond. And so we can look at the diamond, and if it's been swapped out, then we go back to the customer. And in many cases, customers obviously try to argue that they never touched it. We've had cases where people will return an empty box, right? We've had cases, I mean, we've had some really interesting cases over the years, but the reality is that we do a pretty good job with our fraud and prevention, and we have an ex-FBI agent who basically heads up our security department. Trust me, you don't want to have a conversation with him.
Ring is from Blue Nile.
Oh, it is? Yes. There you go. Congratulations.
Yes, over there.
Hi, thank you for your speech. Oh, am I? Yeah, I am on the air. Price was not an issue in your presentation.
Price?
So pricing itself. So why do customers purchase at your web shop and not directly at the jeweler?
You know, so price is a very interesting topic, right? So because at the end of the day, like I said, the average ticket on the engagement side is $6,500, right? So it's not like our customers tend to be highly educated, you know, very like technology, right? And they have a high income. So it's not so much, so price does matter, because we tend to sell diamonds at least 20 to 40% cheaper than you'd find it in a typical jewelry store, right? And the reason the model works is we don't actually be able to list all these diamonds. The diamonds that we list on our site would cost $1 billion for us to buy, $1 billion. But we are able to list it on our site and offer it for sale without paying a dime for them. And that's our strategic relationship with our suppliers, right? So therefore, we pass those savings on to our customer. But our typical customer, let's say, so men, there are a few things you have to understand about men and shopping. First of all, men hate buying diamonds, right? You're kind of hoping you only have to do it once, and you're kind of, you know, this experience of walking into a store and knowing that you know a lot less than the salesperson is a horrible feeling, right? For all of them, I can see some people smiling and nodding. So that's what we're changing. We're changing, basically, we're educating you on diamonds, telling you why the GIS certificate is important. We're telling you cut versus clarity versus, you know, the color, what are the most important variables, how to trade. And what we find is that men shop with a budget in mind. So if I have already made a decision that I'm going to spend $10,000 on my ring, I'm going to spend $10,000 if I go to Tiffany's, or I'm going to spend $10,000 if I go to Blue Nile. So price is important. Where the difference comes in is that I buy a bigger and a better diamond, typically. That's what we see. So it's a very different model. It's you know, most of online is always about trading down and saving money. Our business model, because it's a luxury item, it's actually, in a sort of a weird way, it's about trading up. So that's why I don't talk much about price, to answer your question.
I'm exactly this kind of profile. And if I set in a price for a diamond, I do not have any clue about which diamond I would purchase. So do you also offer international customer care?
Yes, we do. So we have 24/7 customer care. Our Spanish customer care right now is not as good as the English customer care, but you obviously speak very good English, so that should not be a problem. And we are working on trying to get much more 24/7 customer care in Spanish as well. But what happens is, here's another surprising thing, another statistic that might surprise you. A disproportionate number of our customers, at some point in the process, between doing the research, going online, ordering the ring, a lot of times after the payment is made, but before you've actually received the ring, when you start getting really scared and saying, oh, what did I just do? And then when you get the ring, or afterwards because you have 30 days to return the item, at some point during that process, almost every customer actually calls us. So as much as we're an e-commerce company, we're also a high-touch company, right? So there's e-commerce companies out there that say, hey, the best type of customer service is you never have to call me, right? Because it's an efficiency model, it's about operating efficiency. Our model is exactly the opposite. You actually want you to call us because there's no way you know what you need to know about diamonds. And only when you talk to somebody who's been selling diamonds for so many years, they can convince you that this is what you're looking for, this is what's right for you. So they're non-commissioned, so they don't get any commission. They have no benefit of whether they sell more or sell less. There's no pressure. They're just there to educate you. But a lot of that happens with customer service outside of the website.
One more question up there. Arriba, perdona.
Hi, I would like to know if you can share with us how you're going to develop your brand in Spain. How will you develop your brand in Spain?
Oh, a brand in Spain?
How will you do it? Because you have seen here that not many people knows Blue Nile.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, part of the reason I'm actually here is I'm hoping that all of you will go in the next 24 hours and buy something on Blue Nile. So please don't let me down, otherwise my boss won't send me next time. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, the reality about building brand, we're in a very interesting situation, right? We could spend millions of dollars on advertising. You saw the ad that I ran. It was a TV ad that we did. We have tested that. We tested it 10 years ago. We tested it again about 3 years ago. We've done other media. We've done PR. We've done a lot of online. So we have, over the years, realized that because we like to measure the ROI on every dollar that we spend, the digital advertising and online advertising works much better for us than offline and print and radio and TV, right? So our focus is really on online, because you think about the person who's buying the ring, they usually take 2 to 3 weeks to decide. Right, so getting them, they'll look online, they'll do searches, we retarget them, we do a lot of things to basically get to that customer. So the reason nobody knows about Blue Nile is we get them basically one customer at a time, and like she bought her ring, if she had a good experience, she'll tell other people about it. And that's how we've grown our business in the US as well. So it is a slow growth kind of opportunity. We could spend millions of dollars, take our margins up in order to pay for that marketing, but we feel like we're doing a disservice to the customer by doing that. So it's a complicated story. We have to explain the story. It takes a lot of back and forth. It takes a long time to buy something. But the reality is we are on pace to do it, one customer at a time. And we're not in the global market for diamonds is, over $20-30 billion. We're a $500 million company, right? So there's a lot of headroom. We're not trying to be overly aggressive about it. We'd like to do it in a much more systematic way. But really, we do a lot of our brand building with online vehicles, to answer your question.
Una última pregunta. Sí. Breve, si puede ser. Vamos, una pregunta no retórica.
Be short, is that right?
Yes.
It will be short. The other day I saw a film about diamonds in Africa. What kind of social responsibility are you taking with your suppliers, probably in one of those countries?
Yep. That's a great question. So the question really is, if you didn't hear it, it's more about blood diamonds. I'm sure most of you saw the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he gets into Africa, and there's all this sort of fighting going on with blood diamonds. So every diamond that we sell on our site has been through what we call the Kimberley process. So it's the global standard for diamonds globally. And what happens is, including the mine itself, the site holders who get the rough diamonds, the people who cut and polish the diamonds, and then retailers, we all have to sign a document that basically certifies that individual stone has been through the Kimberley process. and it's been sort of tracked through the supply chain. So what we ensure is that none of our diamonds, by adhering to Kimberley process, what we ensure is that none of those diamonds are actually blood diamonds. It's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Vijay. Thanks for everything.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vijay, and I work at Blue Nile, which, how many of you have heard of Blue Nile before? Just show of hands. How many, raise your hand if you've heard of Blue Nile. See, this is actually our number one problem, is people don't know about Blue Nile. So that's why I kind of do these talks, because it's the easiest way for us to get the word out about who Blue Nile is and what we do. Just a little bit of quick introductions, because many of you are new to the website. First of all, I'd encourage you to go to our website at bluenile.com, check it out. We only launched our Spanish website about less than a year ago. So, you should check out, about 65% of our revenue started to trust us more. People know that we're a NASDAQ-listed company, and so they have that trust. The other thing that makes a very big difference for us is the fact that you get a GI certificate with the diamond. So you can verify the diamond. You can go back, you can hold on to the diamond for up to 30 days, and if you're not happy with the purchase, you can return that diamond. And so we stand behind our products and our warranty of the product. So that's essentially the business model that was created all the way back in 99, 2000, built the $300, $400 million business in the US, and my job was to basically take that business model and make it global. So I'm going to talk is diamond engagement rings, so diamond rings, and the other 35% of our revenue comes from jewelry, and jewelry is everything from silver to pearls to gold jewelry, platinum jewelry, as well as diamond jewelry and gemstone jewelry. So a couple of things I want to talk about that are different about Blue Nile. I'm not going to spend all my time talking about Blue Nile. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is how e-commerce is actually sort of helping the world, making the world more flat, how e-commerce is helping brands become global faster and faster. And a good example, the reason I'm standing here in front of you, I've been buying, our office in Europe actually is based in Ireland, so all of our products actually get shipped out of Ireland. So that's just the history of the company. You might find it surprising a little bit in terms of, a lot of the questions I get from people all the time, obviously, is, do people really buy diamonds online? How much do you sell? What do you sell? So 65% of our business where we sell diamond engagement rings, the average ticket per transaction is $6,500. And we ship that through pretty much regular mail, FedEx, UPS, those type of deliveries. So we have built a system where people over time have been with Blue Nile now for about 3.5 years. And I was hired to Blue Nile 10 years after it started to basically start up their international division. So I was the first full-time employee dedicated to international. And over the last 3 years, we've launched websites in Chinese, Japanese, French, Spanish. We have expanded to now about 45 countries. The last two where we launched the United Arab Emirates and serving out of Dubai, and now we are actually in China. So we have an office in Shanghai as well. And for those of you who are interested in